Hello all and welcome to this week of Trails to Tasting. And today we shall be working with this tree here. And this is called a black gum, which goes by many other common names like the sour gum or the tupelo tree. And this is a Pennsylvania native. Let's figure out though how to identify this tree so we can harvest the drupes or the berries to create our sangria. The bark of this tree can be pretty blocky. It has very thin, little narrow ridges or furrows in the bark and looks as if in some spots it could almost flake off. The leaves are alternately arranged and they have these sort of wavy edges. Very, very glossy on top. You can see that shine. And on the underside, it is not glossy at all. It's not super glaucous or white either. Just a nice green, but that top of the leaf is extremely glossy with one very large, very prominent midrib. Now what the black gum is known for are these little blueberry looking things growing off. They are not actually a berry botanically, but they are what is known as a drupe, which is this fleshy stuff with one seed or pit in the center. This is what we are going to be using for our sangria. So harvest about 4-5 of these per person. I know sangrias you can do a whole bunch of people with, but if you know you're going to make one cocktail, 4 or 5 are going to be fine. If you're going to make a whole big punch, harvest more. As a native species, we want to be really kind to this tree and not over-harvest because there's many bird species that are going to be relying on the drupes that this tree is going to produce to get them through the fall. So as you harvest and you forage, only take 1/3. Some people may find it a little strange that we're using the black gum drupes at all. For the most part, black gums are considered inedible. So why would I have you guys be making a cocktail with something that's inedible? Well, foraging. One of the rules of foraging is you have to prepare your fruits, your berries, your mushrooms, whatever it is, properly. And some things that would usually be considered inedible, like the tupelo, black gum, sour gum, whatever, is you make something inedible, something edible. When combined with sugar, you change the flavor of the drupe from really sour, like I had it raw, you're not gonna die, you're not gonna get sick, but it does not taste good. Hence it not being known as toxic and just inedible. When added with sugar, all of that inedibility goes away. You are left with just the amazing flavor of these dark berries or drupes. So harvest away, well, harvest 1/3, and then we'll take these drupes back and combine them with the rest of the ingredients for our sangria. We have our black gum drupes and blackberries, which could be from past foraging experiences. We have plum. We will also need ginger ale, or any sort of a ginger beer would also work, but I find that clear blends really well with white wine. And we will also want sugar. The first thing to do is to muddle the blackberries themselves and the black gum drupes together in a little container here with 1 tablespoon of white sugar. When I am done muddling this, I'm going to want to pick those pits out of my muddled mixture here and just set them aside. I don't need those. And remember what I said, this white sugar is what is going to make these black gum drupes edible. And your method of preparation is really important for all sorts of different wild foraged concoctions. Personally, I love bitter greens. However, some people find that they are very astringent, very bitter. This is due to the amount of tannins that are found in these greens. For example, plantain or dandelion. But turning them into a sauté now makes them edible because heat degrades those bitter tannins. The same with mushrooms. If you are foraging mushrooms, some of them, like a morel, aren't edible raw. They need to be heated so that hydrazine toxins can be removed by heat. Never give up on a plant because it's not edible raw and takes a little bit of time to prepare. You might miss out on some really good stuff. All right, we've got our muddled mixture, and you can see these pits are pretty large. Not something we want in our drinks, so we're gonna set them in a separate jar to get rid of later. We'll take this muddled mixture, set it off to the side, and now let's chop up our plums. Plums are typically pretty small. You can get them off of any sort of ornamental plum tree if you have them in your community. They'll usually be much smaller because the tree's not bred for fruit, it's bred for its spring beauty. Grocery store plums will be a little bit bigger, a little more flavorful, but you miss out on that kind of foraging experience. And we are going to want 3 slices of plum. They don't have to be very thick, but for 1 serving, I just want 3 little slices. And 3. That's kind of big for the glass, so I'm gonna cut it in half. Now set that aside. You can eat this later. We've got our fruit that's gonna go into our shaker. And again, if you are making a big punch or multiple servings, this will want to be in a large container. Maybe think more like a Tupperware or a punch bowl, because this is going to then, all of this stuff is going to sit in the refrigerator for at least an hour to kind of steep and let those juices settle. But for just 1 serving, I'm just gonna refrigerate the shaker. Now, we've got our fruit in here. I'm going to measure directly with my glass, nice and easy. I'm going to take my white wine, and this is a Pinot Grigio, but feel free to use a Chardonnay or any other sort of white that you like. You can also find non-alcoholic white wine at the grocery store, usually in the juice section. And I want about just over half of this glass, or half of what I want to be serving, to be wine. And I'm gonna pour that into my shaker. Now, keep in mind, this is just a storage and straining method. We're not shaking. Then we're gonna add the ginger ale. This we filled up with the wine. We filled about halfway, just a little bit more. This is going to be the remaining liquid. So I'm gonna have it be about 1/3, because I want space for all the fruit. Set this aside in the refrigerator to chill for about an hour at least. This is a good punch to make before the guests arrive. All right, once it has finished chilling, we're gonna wanna pour this mixture into our glass. Now, I have this jelly here because this was a jelly that was made during a different foraging class, and I really loved it. If you're looking to add some extra sweet to your cocktail, jellies and preserves can be a really great way to add some extra sugar and some extra fruit and nutrients to your cocktail. All right. Cheers. Happy fall, everyone. Wow. All right, so you definitely get a blast of really sweet. So I can imagine for me as a personal preference, the drier the wine, the better this might be. I just don't like super sugary things, and this is pretty sweet. The fruit flavors really blend well together. Again, you don't get that really bitter taste at all, and instead the blackberry plum and sour gum, black gum, really merge together for this very rich, very deep, and yet the blackberry adds some nice sweetness to it. Just good. Thanks so much for joining me for this session of Trails to Tasting. I really hope that you enjoyed turning something that was inedible, really not great, into something absolutely delicious here with this session of the black gum tree. I hope you enjoyed. You can feel free to subscribe and follow along with more Trails to Tasting and foraging goodness here on my YouTube channel, and learn more about the art of ecology at www.theartofecology.com. Thanks so much.